I saw this today. It's using some Bill Conley.
Oh, thank God.
Data.
I thought this was college basketball again. You scared me.
Oh, well, I could do that if I wanted to. But so this is looking at the Power 4 conferences and using Bill Conley's SP Plus offensive and defensive rankings. So to describe for those who aren't watching it on the stream, the further up you are in this graph, that's the defense. So the higher up you are, better the defensive ranking you are. The further to the right you are, the better the offense you are.
Okay.
Because remember, right equals good,
Nice,
left
John.
equals bad.
Nice, John.
You know who else said that?
So in a perfect world, you'd be in the upper right-hand corner.
That would be where the
right?
best is, yes.
So this is a graphical plot of all the Big Ten schools, and we'll show the other power conferences in just a moment, of where they are in the preseason Bill Conley SP+.
Okay.
Oregon has the best offense, and they're kind of middle of the pack in defense.
Okay. Well, real quick, middle of the pack.
Well, middle of the Big Ten pack.
Yes, for
middle
sure.
Of the Big Ten pack.
Yeah.
If you notice, a lot of teams are above what would be mid-pack in terms of defensive rankings.
Classic Big Ten. Or the defense is good or the offenses just suck.
Right. Unfortunately, Nebraska and Iowa find themselves in the upper left-hand corner, which is good defense, bad offense.
Handshake meme. Handshake meme.
If you're wondering about Ohio State, very good on defense and decent on offense. But it's kind of interesting to see the graphical representation, right?
Yeah. Oh,
so
100%.
This is the Big Ten. So your teams like, obviously, Oregon, SC, Ohio State, Penn State, your good offensive teams, your really good defensive teams, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, for example. So that's the Big Ten. Take a look at the SEC.
Ooh, interesting.
And look at how the SEC...
It just is like a kind of a straight line. It all is into each other.
And you've got a lot of teams offensively that are really, really good, like Georgia and LSU and Texas and Alabama.
It's crazy.
Ole Miss. I mean, again, I'm just going to go click back and forth here.
Yeah.
Compare that to the Big Ten.
Daddy's home, click, click, click.
Where you've got a couple of teams way off to the right, which means good offense. Look how many SEC schools are in that same boat.
A lot of them.
Quite a few of them.
Isn't it amazing?
Meanwhile, not as many defenses that are as high as Big Ten defenses like Georgia. Georgia right now, they'd be the fifth best defense in the Big Ten.
Isn't it amazing how fast the perception, or not even perception, how fast the numbers have changed for this league? It is not that long ago.
Right.
That the SEC was known. Remember the famous 9-6 football game?
They were the defensive
league. A decade and a half ago. And now it is an offensive league built on quarterbacks that are going to get drafted.
All right. So we move now to, which one did I pick next? Okay. This is the ACC next.
Okay. Yeah, Notre Dame.
I saved the best for last. You'll see in a minute.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine what's going to happen.
But in the ACC, you got quite a few teams that are packed kind of in the
I was going to say, it's like not a really great offense, not a really great defense, but not anyone that's like horrifically terrible either. It's
Correct.
A lot of mid.
It is a lot of mid.
Mid.
I mean, Notre Dame.
I'm so glad I brought that word here.
Notre Dame is, by Bill Conley's rankings, the best ACC offense.
Yeah.
They'd be, what, sixth best?
Oh, yeah. At least.
Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 best.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Seventh best.
Yeah.
No, sixth best.
Not great, John.
In the SEC.
They'd be a top third
in the Big
SEC.
Ten. In the Big Ten, they would be third.
Yeah.
But defensively, not a lot of teams. I mean, Notre Dame, Florida State, pretty good defensively. But in the Big Ten, they'd be like seventh.
John, honestly, this is a kind of a nice little callback to our previous segment.
It
really is helping to explain some of these things.
Now, I said I'd save the best for last.
I assume this is the Big 12?
This is the Big 12.
I feel like this is going to be all over the place. Am I right?
Oh,
no. Oh, that's a bummer. It's just all clumped even more.
But what does this tell you?
It's going to be an awesome league.
It's going to be close.
I can't wait for this season.
I mean, you got so many team logos overlapping each other. It's not even funny. I mean, literally everyone's just clumped together close to the middle.
And I've said this on the Grum before.
Yeah.
I like, as somebody who's a newcomer to the world of college football, I like the Big 12 more because
it's
of
a fun league. It's going to be
really fun.
Especially this year when you add in all those West Coast schools. You have Utah that has the best defense in the league, but they are the 6th best offense in the league. Wow. Going to be a fun one. It is really going to be a really fun league.
Look at those Cyclones.
And I mean, there's nobody who's like trailing way behind.
No, everyone's right there.
But also there's no one that's really that far out in front.
Yeah. Max asked a question, and I did want to just have like maybe a bigger picture discussion. He says, well, bad weather helps the defense, right? I mean, one of my questions in this whole discussion is, are the defenses in the SEC, or the offenses that good, or the defenses that bad? Same thing for the Big Ten. Are the defenses that good, or are the offenses that bad? Iowa has had a really good defense over the last few years. This is inarguable. They also got to play the Big Ten West.
Correct.
Getting to play Nebraska every year. Wisconsin has taken a step back. Northwestern, Purdue. That helps. That it's going to help your ratings. Just like if you're in the SEC, remember that famous, was it Ole Miss LSU game last year that ended like 50-40 or what? I mean, it was just an insane. Are their offenses really good, or are the defenses horrible? It's really, John, this is kind of a debate that you and I have inside of seasons about, did you like the Wisconsin-Iowa game because it was good defense or not? And, we joked about it a lot, but I think that seeing graphics like this really does help explain that. And to go back to another discussion from earlier, playing in the non-conference is really one of the few ways to ultimately answer this question. And because it's football, the number of data points are going to be lower.
The Big Ten looks like a shotgun pattern. It's just spread everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It's the most spread out. You've got the most extremes. You got the extremes of one of the best offenses in college football in Oregon and one of the worst in Northwestern.
Yeah.
You've got the extremes of great defenses at Iowa and Ohio State and Michigan and bad defenses at Southern Cal. SEC, I mean, it's more like a hose pattern, right? It just starts and then just kind of goes out.
Yeah, and it's like and the best teams are on the far right side of the graphic, and the worst teams are on the far left side of the graphic. Like full stop. I mean, maybe an Auburn surprises us, but I feel like if the standings finished with like Georgia, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri in that order, and LSU, I guess, it wouldn't totally shock me. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody might pop up in there. Oklahoma, Tennessee, they're a little further back, but that wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think it'd be interesting to compare all the mid teams throughout the season.
Yeah,
the Auburn, those guys.
Those guys.
NC State is hiding behind there.
Yeah. And the ACC is pretty tightly packed, but the Big 10 or Big 12 is the tightest packed. I mean, everyone's just clumped together.
The clumps.
That
was a Nutty Professor movie.
Yes, it was.
Wow, nice reference, Nick. Kyle tweets in. He says, I don't quite understand why people think weather is a defensive advantage. The offensive guys are the only ones that know where they are running. If it's a slippery track, advantage offense. I think mainly it's when I think of bad weather, I'm not just thinking of moisture. I'm thinking of wind, and wind is when the offense can
wind.
Bingo. It really does take out
and cold too.
Yeah.
I mean, cold. I mean, it just kind of slows everything down.
We saw that with Knicks Dolphins. Like that was a really cold game, and they looked like trash.
They did.
And then
people got amputated.
Exactly.